Okay, so imagine this. You've worked your whole life putting money aside for retirement, right?
Right.
You trust your company to manage your pension, and then
Yeah.
the unthinkable happens.
Mm.
They go bankrupt. That's a nightmare scenario.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's exactly the kind of situation that led to the creation of custodian banks.
Yep, that's right.
We're going deep on custodian banks today.
Yeah.
What they are, why they matter, and why understanding them is important even if you're not an investor.
Right.
And we'll do our best to make it interesting.
Yeah.
So let's rewind the clock back to the 1970s.
Okay.
What was going on back then that really set the stage for custodian banks as we know them today?
Well, back in the 1970s, events like the Studebaker factory closure,
Oh, yeah.
they exposed a real vulnerability
Mm-hmm.
in how pensions were managed.
Right.
Seeing a company like that go under,
Right.
leaving its workers high and dry,
Mm-hmm.
sent shockwaves through the entire country.
Yeah, it's like something out of a movie, a whole company going belly up like that.
It was a big deal.
No wonder people were panicking about their pensions.
Absolutely.
So what was the response?
Well, that panic led to a landmark piece of legislation,
Okay.
the Employee Retirement Income Security Act,
Mm-hmm.
or ERISA,
Yeah.
in 1974.
Okay.
ERISA basically said no more companies managing their own pension funds.
Oh, interesting.
They had to bring in an independent third party,
Okay.
a custodian bank, to protect workers' hard-earned money.
So it's like having a completely neutral referee safeguarding everyone's retirement savings.
Precisely.
Okay.
And this wasn't just about protecting workers.
Yeah.
It fundamentally reshaped the financial landscape,
Interesting.
giving birth to the custodian bank industry as we know it.
Oh,
Fast forward to today, and these financial guardians aren't just watching over pensions anymore.
right.
They're managing a mind-boggling $230 trillion in assets globally.
$230 trillion.
That's right.
Wow.
It's a huge number.
That's more than the entire global economy combined.
It's hard to even fathom that much money.
It is, and it's all entrusted to these often invisible institutions.
That's right, and it highlights just how vital custodian banks have become to the functioning of the entire financial system.
Right.
They are, in many ways, the unsung heroes of global finance.
The silent guardians of trillions upon trillions of dollars.
Exactly.
So we've established that custodian banks are dealing with huge sums of money.
Yeah, huge.
But what are they actually doing with it all?
Right.
It can't just be about sticking cash in a giant vault, right?
Oh, right. It's much more dynamic than that.
Okay.
Safekeeping those assets is just the first step.
Right.
Think of it as a whole suite of services.
Okay.
Global custody fund, administration, securities, lending.
Okay.
They even handle things like treasury products.
Treasury products.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to admit that sounds a bit...
A little mysterious.
Yeah, a bit like something out of a spy movie.
Right.
What exactly are we talking about here?
Essentially, they're debt securities issued by governments,
Okay.
things like U.S. Treasury bonds.
Mm.
Custodian banks can hold and manage these for their clients,
Okay.
who might be looking for a very safe, stable place to park their money.
So it's like a one-stop shop for all things finance.
In a way.
From the everyday to the protect the crown jewels level of assets.
That's a good way to put it.
But you mentioned different types of clients.
Right.
Who are the main players working with these financial giants?
That's a key point because their services are really tailored to two main groups.
Okay.
You've got your big institutional investors like
Yep.
pension funds and insurance companies.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have banks, brokers, and dealers.
Okay.
Each group has its own set of needs,
Right.
which really highlights the specialized nature of what a custodian bank offers.
So it's like a tale of two service worlds,
Yeah, you could say that.
all under the umbrella of custody.
Right.
Let's break that down.
Okay.
What does working with a custodian bank look like for, say, a massive pension fund?
Okay, so imagine you're that pension fund
Okay.
and you're investing globally. To maximize returns for your retirees,
Mm-hmm.
you're buying stocks in Japan, bonds in Germany, real estate in Brazil.
Wow. Yeah.
It gets complex quickly.
It does.
And that's where a custodian bank's global custody service becomes essential.
Okay, because I'm already getting a headache just thinking about the logistics of all this.
Exactly.
So how do they manage it?
Well, custodian banks have this intricate network
Okay.
of local custodians,
Right.
sometimes called sub-custodians or agent banks,
Right.
all over the world.
Hmm.
So when that pension fund needs to buy Japanese stocks,
Right.
Their custodian bank will work with their sub-custodian in Japan,
Okay.
who knows all the ins and outs of the Japanese market.
So it's like having a financial translator and guide,
Exactly.
making sure everything runs smoothly across borders and different financial systems.
Precisely, that local expertise is crucial.
Okay, how so?
For example, let's say that pension fund needs to settle a trade in Japanese yen.
Okay.
Their sub-custodian in Japan would handle the currency exchange and make sure the transaction complies with all local regulations.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that is a serious load off the pension fund's plate.
It is a big help.
But it's not just about handling the buying and selling, right?
Right.
What about all the behind-the-scenes work?
That's where fund administration comes in.
Okay.
Custodian banks also provide back-office support to these large asset managers.
Okay.
Think things like fund accounting,
Mm-hmm.
calculating the net asset value of the fund,
Right.
and even preparing regulatory reports.
Wow.
They handle it all.
So they really take care of every single detail,
They do a lot.
leaving the pension fund free to focus on their investment strategies.
Exactly.
But what about those other clients you mentioned, the
That-
banks and brokers?
Yeah.
Why do they need custodian banks?
For them, it's often about outsourcing specific functions
Okay.
to streamline their own operations
Right.
and, frankly, save a lot of money.
Makes sense.
One key service is what's called direct custody and clearing.
Direct custody and clearing. Okay. What is that in a nutshell?
In this case, you have a local custodian bank acting as the direct custodian
Okay.
for a global custodian.
Wait, so it's like custodian banks serving other custodian banks?
In a way,
That seems kind of Inception-like.
it's all connected.
Okay, give me an example.
Okay, let's say a German bank needs to settle a trade in U.S. stocks.
Right.
They might not have their own extensive operations in the U.S.,
Okay.
so they'll go through a global custodian.
Right.
That global custodian then uses their network of local custodians,
Ah.
in this case one in the U.S.,
Mhm.
to handle the local settlement and clearing of the trade.
Okay, so they're like the middleman.
Essentially, yes.
Wow. Now I'm starting to see why this is a deep dive and not a quick dip.
It's a complex world.
It is, the way it's all interconnected is fascinating.
It is.
But this all seems very high level,
Yeah.
dealing with these massive institutions.
Right.
Where do everyday investors like myself fit into this picture?
That's a great question. And it might surprise you to know that even if you've never directly interacted with a custodian bank,
Yeah.
they're likely playing a role in your financial life.
Really? Tell me more. How so?
Think about it. If you're invested in a mutual fund,
Okay.
an ETF, or even a 401k retirement plan,
Right.
chances are a custodian bank is working behind the scenes,
Okay.
safeguarding those assets.
Interesting.
They're making sure your money is held securely,
Right.
transactions are processed accurately,
Mm-hmm.
and everything is accounted for according to regulations.
So in a way, they're kind of like the silent guardians of everyone's investments,
Agreed.
whether we realize it or not.
That's right.
Hmm.
They provide a fundamental level of protection and stability within the financial system,
Right.
ensuring that even if individual companies come and go,
Right.
your investments are held safely and securely.
Okay, so we've talked about what custodian banks do,
Right.
how they fit into the bigger picture,
Yeah.
but who are these financial titans we're talking about? Are we talking about household names here?
Absolutely. You've got giants like BNY Mellon, State Street, JP Morgan Chase,
Oh, yeah.
companies you likely recognize from your own banking experiences.
It's funny how you don't really think about it. Like all
Yeah.
these different parts of the financial system
Right.
and these big institutions have these massive custodian operations running behind the scenes.
That's right. It's a whole...
It's a hidden world within the financial world.
Exactly.
But this industry, it's gone through some major changes itself, right?
It has.
Our sources mentioned a lot of consolidation happening.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that, especially in the past 25 years.
What's driving that?
Well, a handful of major players have really emerged.
Right.
They've essentially consolidated a huge portion of the global custody business.
So it's like a big fish eats smaller fish kind of situation.
In a way, yes, and
Yeah.
with that consolidation comes, you guessed it, mergers and acquisitions.
Right.
Big deals.
Exactly. And speaking of big deals,
Yeah.
our sources mention State Street's attempted acquisition of Brown Brothers Harriman's investor services business.
Oh, yeah, that was a big one.
That must have sent ripples through the industry.
It did. It was a proposed $3.5 billion deal that
Wow.
ultimately fell through.
Wow. So it's not always a done deal.
No, not at all.
No.
It really underscores just how competitive this arena is.
So what's the driving force behind all this merger activity?
Right.
Is it simply a case of bigger is better?
Well, while size does matter in terms of efficiency
Right.
and economies of scale,
Okay.
it's more nuanced than that.
Okay, so what else is going on?
Well, as technology rapidly advances,
Right.
custodian banks are under immense pressure to adapt.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They need to streamline operations,
Right.
handle increasingly complex transactions,
Right.
and do it all while keeping costs down.
Of course, who doesn't want to keep costs down?
Right, so merging with or acquiring companies can be a fast track to achieving those goals.
Makes sense, kind of like cutting out the middleman in a way.
In a way, yes.
So it's partly a way to keep pace with the ever-changing world of finance,
Exactly.
especially in the age of digital disruption.
That's a good way to put it.
Things are changing so rapidly.
They are.
Like, look at blockchain technology.
Right.
It has the potential to completely revolutionize how assets are held and transferred.
Absolutely.
So custodian banks can't just sit back and relax.
No, they have to adapt or risk being left behind.
They're investing heavily in these new technologies.
They are.
And sometimes the fastest way to innovate is to bring in expertise from outside.
That's right.
So it's a bit like a high-stakes game of chess,
It is a competitive landscape.
always thinking several moves ahead.
Yeah, always looking to the future.
Which leads us to a question that I find both intriguing and a little bit daunting
Yeah.
as we increasingly move towards a digital world.
Right.
One where things like cryptocurrency and the metaverse are gaining traction.
Mm-hmm.
What role will custodian banks play?
Right.
Will they become the guardians of these new digital frontiers?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It's a big one.
And if history has taught us anything, it's that the financial world is constantly evolving.
For sure.
And custodian banks, often operating behind the scenes, have consistently adapted to those changes.
Yeah, they're kind of like chameleons of finance.
That's a good way to put it.
They blend in and adapt to whatever the landscape throws at them.
They find a way.
Whether it's safeguarding trillions in traditional assets
Right.
or navigating the complexities of a digital future.
Mm-hmm.
One thing is certain custodian banks will continue to play a vital role in shaping the financial landscape.
I think that's a safe bet.
It's a reminder that even in a world that's rapidly becoming digital, the need for security,
Absolutely.
trust, and expert management of assets remains paramount.
Yeah, those things are always going to be important.
And it seems like custodian banks, though often unseen, are the ones quietly ensuring those needs are met.
They're the silent guardians of the financial system.
The silent guardians, exactly. Well, there you have it.
That's custodian banks in a nutshell.
A deep dive into the world of custodian banks.
A fascinating world.
An industry that's both surprisingly complex and incredibly important.
It really is.
Even if you've never heard of them before.
Even if you didn't know they existed.
Exactly. We hope this journey behind the curtain of global finance
A little peek behind the curtain.
has given you a newfound appreciation for the often invisible forces that keep our financial system running smoothly.
It's a complex system.
It is, with many moving parts.
A lot of moving parts.
But hopefully now it makes a little bit more sense.
I hope so.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep asking those insightful questions.
Curiosity is key.
That's right.